Hello and welcome to this, our 265th live stream, the Pharaoh of Swing. We, of course, are referencing to the Monday video that we did on Ramses II as Pharaoh of the Exodus, and if you haven't seen that, please do so. Basically, the book we're going to promote this week is The Lord of Steel and Sky, which is going to be released in 4 weeks. So we are down to the 1-month countdown of the release date. So if you haven't pre-ordered that, please do so. And once you do get it, please leave a review. Your reviews really, really matter to us. So we depend upon your reviews. So please do so. All right. So one other point of business we should take care of is the fact we are both exhausted. I have not slept in 48 hours. And Mrs. Producer is not much better off. So, Yeah, we are a little punchy tonight, just because we are just exhausted. So, with all that said, let's get into the rules and then let's get into the questions. Super chats have priority, same as all YouTube channels. That should be no surprise to anybody. We do take non-super chat questions, but we ask that you put a Q and a colon in front of it, so that we know it's directed to us. No Q, no colon, we might as well not see it. Only post non-super chat questions once. Even small tweaks will get your question disqualified. Also, we should also point out that just because you post a non-super chat question does not guarantee we are going to take it. And Mrs. Producer has already spilled the beans on the sloppy book start. Yes, everyone's been asking for a sloppy book. Okay, rule number 4. If you ask a question about the Bible, we do need a little bit of context, so we need what book it's from, what chapter, and what verse. We do allow questions to be sponsored, in which case, please copy the non-super chat into the super chat so we don't have to hunt for it. It makes things easier for us. And finally, 1 question per chat. No question stacking, because that's just not fair to anybody. All right? In which case, we'll just take 1 and then move on. All right. With that said, we're going to get into the questions. All right. Yeah, it was one of the reasons I didn't get sleep last night was because somebody came up with an idea for a sloppy book. Mrs. Producer is smiling broadly off screen. Mama goes, sloppy has main character of an end scene credit scene energy. Always got a little more than that. But yes, Ed Wilson says, also, Dr. Falk, my name is pronounced Zombine. Comes from Zombie Combine enemy from Half-Life 2. The internet name I chose for myself when I was 11, and it still has stuck laugh out loud. And yet it says Ed Wilson's. Okay. All right, let's move on here. Let's start off with the first question here. First question is from Magnus of the North. Generally speaking, how good are the church fathers at interpreting the Old Testament? Not fantastic. Sometimes they're okay, but sometimes they're really off. I think it was Irenaeus who interpreted Isaiah 9. This is the famous Emmanuel passage. The historical context of that passage is the Syro-Ephraimite war towards the last days of the kingdom of Israel. And Irenaeus interpreted that as a weird prophecy concerning the Mithras cult. It's a very strange interpretation. And it's one really specific for Romans. So I don't think that's a good interpretation. I don't know anyone else who thinks it's a good interpretation. So the church fathers are kind of hit and miss when it comes to interpreting the Old Testament. When it comes to, for example, say, who was the king of the Exodus, they're all over the map. You get ones that say it's Tutmosis IV. You get ones that say it's Akhmos I. You get ones that say it's Akhenaten. You even get guys who say it's Amamesis from the 19th dynasty. So yeah, they're really not consistent in how they interpret the Old Testament. So The only thing they can seem to agree on is that it's Christ in the Old Testament. That's the only thing they can really seem to agree on. So, as long as you understand that, I mean, it's okay to read them, but don't take them for gospel when it comes to interpreting the Old Testament. So, that's what I would say about that.
It was because
Francis Dobbs goes, was it because of their limited historical knowledge? Yeah, pretty much. Most of that knowledge had been lost at that point. So, yeah, there's a lot of limits to their knowledge about the Old Testament. So you will get some strange interpretations sometimes, interpretations that don't make sense. So just keep that in mind when you engage the church fathers, especially on the Old Testament. But it will get you really good insight on what they were thinking at the time. I'll say that. Give you a real great insight about what Roman period Christianity was thinking. And how diverse that thinking was. Crazy how diverse it was. All right, next one here is from Goldenwind. Sorry, I'm gonna mess up names all night. Okay, just because I'm tired. So don't hold that against me. I'm just gonna misspeak everything tonight. Okay, he asks, or she asks, I don't know which one it is. Between prima scriptura and sola scriptura, when both consider the historical context of the text, which is preferable for communities over long term so they do not drift? All right, let's define some terms. And we're actually going to include one other term here. You've got prima scriptura. And what prima scriptura is, you consider scripture first, and then you can add anything else you want to it. So, current morality, other texts, traditions, all that stuff. Then you've got sola scriptura. Sola scriptura considers tradition, other stuff first, and then makes scripture the final authority. And then you've got something called nuda scriptura, which is you don't consider anything but scripture. Okay, so you got three classifications there: prima scriptura, nuda scriptura, and sola scriptura. Okay. I think the best of the three to prevent drift is actually sola scriptura, because what you're doing is you are consulting church fathers, you're consulting church tradition, you are consulting other texts, you're consulting historical documents and historical contexts, and then scripture weighs in on the final statement. Okay, so I think sola scriptura is the best, and I think most churches, when it comes to push or shove, will usually end up going sola scriptura. Just because at the end of the day, now there are some churches that do go prima scriptura, like High Anglicanism. We can see the drift that's happened there. And then you've got, say, Roman Catholicism that doesn't do any of the three. They don't do prima scriptura, they don't do sola, and they don't do nuda. They do a balance of tradition and scripture. But a lot of churches, even if they reject sola scriptura formally, they'll often retreat in that position because it's the safest position to retreat into. And that tells you how stable it is to prevent drift, that many churches will go use that as their default position, even if they don't accept it, which is very strange, but it does happen. So I hope that helps. Thank you for the question. Very much appreciated. Next question here. Is David the only one in his family who has a degree related to the Bible? No. Mrs. Producer has a diploma in systematic theology. But apart from us two, we're the only ones among my relations that have a degree related to the Bible. So it's me and Mrs. Producer, and that's it. So hope that helps. Next one from Golden Wind. Hi, Bubble Trouble. How's it going? Goldman asks, Dr. Falk, if you have to be a Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, or Oriental Orthodox, which one would you be? None of the above. But of those three, the one I'd least want to be is Roman Catholic. Here's the reason. Okay? It's nothing to do necessarily with Roman Catholicism per se. It's that as a convert, I have to believe everything they say. Everything. I'm not going to agree with everything on any church. Ever. So, that sort of strikes Roman Catholicism right off the list for me. There's no way I could ever convert to Roman Catholicism because I could never agree with everything they say. And you know what? I would have that same point of view if any other church said that to convert you had to agree with everything. Like, that ain't happening. So, Jack Ray says, I can't agree 100% with everything I say. Yeah, well, me neither. And if I can't agree with everything I say, I'm certainly not going to agree with everything Roman Catholicism says. I don't know. Given the choice, none of the above. None of the above. But the one I can just absolutely strike off the list is Roman Catholicism. It's just, it ain't happening for me. Just not happening. All right, moving on. Next non-super chat here is from Golden Wind, who asks, in your opinion, what is good and bad about Anglican, Lutheran, Reformed, Baptist, Methodist traditions, respectively? And you're expecting me to answer that in 3 minutes or less.
On 48 hours without sleep.
On 48 hours without sleep. That should be fun. And exhaustive. And exhausting.
Alright, I want to hear this.
I'm not going to answer this question in full. Okay, not doing it. But I will pick the first one, Anglicanism. Okay? CPM versus DOS. Well, get some popcorn. This will be a 16-hour stream.
No, it won't.
It will not.
David will fall on his face.
I will absolutely collapse if I try that. I'm not doing that. Okay. Mama says, Bomb Papa worked overtime this week, so he's headed to bed. Oh! But the rest of us are listening, watching. I wish I could go to bed. Back to the question. Yeah, I'm gonna be distracted like a squirrel. So it's just like I'm. Okay, the first question is backed up. Okay, so we're just gonna take the first one, Anglicanism. What's good and what's bad about it? Okay, I'll start with what's good. The Westminster Confession, really good. One of the best theological statements I've ever read. Westminster Confession is a gold mine of theological wisdom. It is absolutely incredible. Okay? Mama says, Doc, I can tell you are loopy. This better be your shortest stream ever.
Was it? They have wine for communion.
Andrew says they have wine for communion. Yeah, that's a good thing. The other thing I would say that is very good about Anglicanism is their liturgy. Their liturgy is comparable to any form of worship I've seen. It's really good. I like their liturgy. I think they have an absolute banger liturgy. Okay? So that's what I would say is really, really good about Anglicanism. Now, what's bad about Anglicanism? Prima scriptura. Their use of Prima Scriptura has allowed all sorts of liberalism and rot to creep into the church, into the Anglican Church. It has absolutely become a cesspool. It's become a cesspool of sin and depravity. That's what is that's what I think is wrong with Anglicanism. It's become a cesspool of sin and depravity. And it's celebrated. The sin and depravity is celebrated within Anglicanism. Again, because of their use of Prima Scriptura. Scripture is not the final authority. It's where they start, and then they add anything else they want to it. So yeah, that's the good and that's the bad about Anglicanism. Again, the good thing, their liturgy is phenomenal, and their Westminster Confession is one of the best statements of theology I've ever read. Too bad they don't follow it. So, Darkblade goes, is Anglicanism the denomination that the famous Jesus was trans cleric came from? Yeah. Yep. AJ Higgins asks, Anglican Episcopal is non-ACNA. Yeah. It's non-Anglican Communion of North America. The Anglican Communion of North America is a breakaway group of Anglicans. Now, I will say this about some of those breakaway groups too, is they still have some of the same problems as, say, mainline Anglicanism. They didn't really fix the problem. They just sort of removed themselves from out of it. But the underlying issues are still there. So I think in about 100 years, the ACNA is going to be in the same state as it was before. So anyway, I hope that helped. Thank you very much for the question. Really appreciate it. All right, let's go to the next one here. Is from Daniel Hogan for $4.99. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hypothetically, you were given $20 million and guaranteed all necessary permits for one archaeological dig site. Where would you dig and why? Okay. I think the place I would dig is in the sand south of the Pelusiac estuary. And I would be looking for one of two towns. Okay? I would be looking for either Balsafon or Pihahirot. And finding those would be a major coup. Because then you've got a really good case for an Exodus route. So, I have an idea where they are roughly, but I do not have a Yehudia. Okay, let's see if I can't get that up for some reason. Go. Okay, Barbate says, okay, so not Tel Yehudia. Tel Yehudia has already been excavated once. Petrie excavated it. James Hoffmeyer tried to go back to Tel Yehudia, but Tel Yehudia is a... Can I say this? It's a politically sensitive site. It's in Cairo. It's near Cairo, anyway. It's actually near Heliopolis. And it is a temple of Yahweh. So the Egyptians don't want you excavating that because it will create internal strife. So So yeah, they just do not want you excavating that. CPM versus DOS. I got a shovel I found on the freeway and $15. Yeah, that ain't gonna fund a dig. All right. But yeah, that's where I would dig. I dig south of the Plusiak estuary. No one's dug there before. It'd be a really, really great place to dig. There was towns there, and your chances finding something really good out there is pretty high. So okay, and then Daniel asks a follow-up question. In this hypothetical, you and your team have unrestricted access to the site for 10 seasons. Oh, then definitely. I'd definitely do that Southern Pelusiac. Oh, yeah, 10 seasons. Well, I mean, if you get $20 million, you are a research millionaire at that point. If you got $20 million guaranteed and in the bank to fund a chair, you're not digging for 10 seasons, you're digging for 20. Because what happens is they put that in the bank and then you just take off the interest and you get paid the interest. Yeah. So that doesn't guarantee you for 10 seasons. That guarantees you for 20 or more. Basically, as long as you want to dig, as long as you live. Of course, once you die, that gets passed on to the next chair. But so yeah, that's a lot of money for research. So, yeah, that much money will get you a lot more digging out than just 10 seasons.
That $20 million taxed by Egypt or Canada?
Darkblade goes, is that $20 million taxed by Egypt or by Canada? It's not taxed. Because it's like a trust. So it goes into a university trust. And university trusts are not taxable. So they collect the whole cash wad. And here's how these trusts work. Okay. While the guy is still alive, the guy who you've intended it for, he gets the money. Okay. Once the recipient, the intended recipient, dies, then the university gets the money. So yeah, it is a form of tax exemption for research institutions. Chad Lennox goes, how long is a typical season? Usually 4 to 6 weeks. Usually 4 to 6 weeks. It's not that long. It's 4 weeks if you teach classes. It's 6 weeks if you don't. Okay, next move on. Next one here. Justin the Rhino asks, is it possible for demonic entities to lie in a way to use Jesus to tell a half-truth, to use that to leave people to believe something that sounds correct but is against God? For example, Mormonism. Sure, absolutely. It's absolutely possible to create a phony Jesus that sounds sort of like the truth but isn't. Happens all the time. The one thing that demons cannot do is they cannot declare Jesus Christ to be Yahweh or Lord. That's it. That's about all they're not permitted to do. So, Ryan Cohen Camp, quote, demons can't lie if you do the rituals properly, end quote. That one beanie guy. Oh, yeah, the one that said that the demon told him that Islam was the true religion. It's like, what?
Demons.
What?
They're not dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, those rituals aren't worth much. But yeah, demons lie all the time. That's what they're good at. They'll lie just for the heck of it. The only thing they cannot do is they cannot declare Jesus as Lord. That's it. That seems to be a hard limit.
Shocking revelation.
Yeah, magic is more of a suggestion. More like guidelines. Yeah, rituals are more like guidelines. All right. Moving on here. King Bubby asks, thoughts on Dave Faria, Professor Dave? It's crazy how he's gone off the deep end with wokeism and anti-Trumpism. And frankly, I don't care about any of those other two things. My issues with Dave Farina is, well, he teaches chemistry at a community college with a master's degree. He's not a PhD. He hasn't done the final work to do that. And he calls himself professor because he can't call himself doctor.
He does actually.
He does actually teach at a community college. But then again, because you're only teaching at a community college and not at a graduate school, they only require 1 degree up for that, and not a terminal degree. So I don't take the guy seriously. So I don't even think he's really a good science educator. He's not a good science educator even. So he's not a good science educator. He's not really good when he goes off topic. So I don't pay him any attention. I don't watch him, and I don't pay him any attention because he's not really important to anything I do. So, all right, next on, moving on. Justin the Rhino asks, can demonic deities that can't possess Christians still affect a Christian physiology through chemical alterations such as hormones and such to give a false feeling that pushes them to sin? I think that would be a stretch even for a demon. Now, a demon can plant thoughts in your brain to tempt you. That it can do. But that's more of a psychic thing than it is a physiological thing. I don't think there's anything that a demon can do physiologically to a Christian, except maybe perhaps brute force trauma. You know, a demon might be able to throw something off a pot off the wall at you and physiologically alter you through brute force trauma. But that's really more or less the extent of it. He can't go into you and mess around with your organs. He can't do that. A demon also can't possess you for the same reasons. But he can also inspire somebody to beat you on the head with a baseball bat. And he can put thoughts in your mind to tempt you. That he can do. But any spirit can do that. So, physiological chemical alterations, no. Blunt force trauma, yeah, sure. Tempting you, yeah, sure. That's really the extent of it, though. All right, next one here is also from Justin the Rhino. He asks, can a person possessed by a demonic entity cast out another demonic entity possessing another person as a form of mockery to God? It would be very unusual for that to happen. In fact, Christ says, can Satan drive out Satan? A house divided against itself will fall. Oh, we have to understand that when a demon takes over a person, that raises the stakes. That raises the stakes in the game. You know, it raises the stakes for the human, and it raises the stakes for the demonic entity. Okay, so a demonic entity is not going to drive out another demonic entity. It just isn't going to happen. Because it just, it won't be a mockery to God to do that, what it will do is it will weaken their own position. So you're just not going to ever see that happening, even if it was possible. So yeah, Andy Gone Wild, it wouldn't want to. Yeah. Mama says, Doc, that is a good question. Can Satan actually drive any demons out of anyone? And the answer's practically no. Possible? Maybe. But he wouldn't
necessarily drive them out.
No.
There are conspiracies, for want of a better word, where that's part of the plan to look like demons.
Well, Christ says that doesn't happen.
I'm thinking of what goes on in a lot of with local shamans.
Yeah, even that though, those are usually temporary. Yeah. Those are palliative. They're not. Yeah, those are not true castings out.
No.
Mama also asks, does he even have that authority? And that's actually a great question. There is a question. Does Satan have authority over demons? How much of the forces of Satan are voluntary? That's one of those things that that given that the fall of the spirit world is a kind of anarchy, it's not really a kingdom as such. It's more of an anarchy. There has been questions raised upon how much power does Satan have, even within his little confines. Now, there are questions whether the Arche has that kind of power, because the Arche, in a sense, rule by brute force, and Satan could have the power of an Arche. That's possible. But even then, there seems to be limits as to how much control even the Arche or Satan has over, say, the whole unified forces of darkness. It doesn't seem to be a well-ordered army. Okay? It doesn't seem to be that. That doesn't seem to be the situation happening here.
Indeed.
Yeah. Where's that?
840.
Oh, yeah, 840. Okay. Andy Gone Wild says, this is like asking if a drug dealer would help people get off of drugs. Yeah, the answer is they could, but no, they wouldn't.
Isn't it just like other Megatrons?
You see that?
Bubble Treble? 840 also?
Bubble Trouble says, isn't he just like every other demon, but like in a Megatron sort of way? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's actually a pretty good analogy. If you understand the reference, Megatron doesn't really control the Decepticons all that much. He's more or less the biggest bully among the Decepticons, but he doesn't really control them very well.
Dr. Emmy Martinez, 841. I read the screw tape letters. Wonder if any of the.
Dr. Amy Martinez says, I read the screw tape letters, and I wonder if any of the demons regret following the devil. No, they don't. Here's the one thing about being a demonic entity is you knew full well the consequences, the costs, what would it cost you, and the results. You knew everything. And you knew who God was on top of it.
They've always been face to face with God.
Yeah. So that's how it works.
We take a lot on faith.
Yeah. Ryan Cohenkamp, is Satan the strongest enemy of God? Yes, he is, but he's also a second-rate adversary. So, he is the strongest enemy of God, but he's very second-rate. He's only a cherubim. That's it. You know, he's not a god himself. He's just a cherubim. And that's pretty powerful, but yeah, he's a second-rate adversary. I mean, he can't even defeat Michael. You know, when he goes to war against Michael, who is a prince, a Tsar, he can't defeat him. So he's a second-rate adversary. Chowry goes, so Demon Society is essentially the Pirate Republic of Nassau. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move on here to the next question. Next question is from Golden Wind. How would you write demons in futuristic or cyberpunk setting without it being an incoherent mess of ideas? Okay. Here is my advice for writing demons. Doesn't matter if you're doing fantasy, books of the past, books of the present, or books of the future. Okay? Here's the thing. Write about demons like you would write about them today. The strategies of demons has not changed in 5,000 years. It's exactly the same. The tactics are exactly the same. So, well, you write, say, if you're doing a futuristic or cyberpunk setting, write the setting as though it were the future. You know, with the technology and the progress and all of that, and the inevitable regress too. Because you can't have progress without some regress. But then, write the demons in that setting like they would exist today. Because the tactics of demons don't change. They never change. They're the same tired tactics of 5,000 years ago, and they still work. And they still work because people haven't changed in 5,000 years. Yeah, human nature never changes.
Level like already so
Anagram, will they ever change their levels of evil? No, because they're already kind of there. They've kind of gone full evil as it is. So no, they won't ever change their levels of evil, and they're still doing the same stuff. It's just
Mama subs it.
yeah, Mama still sums it up: kill, steal, destroy. That's the tactics. Ryan Cocap is, what are those tactics in short? And I think Mama really summarized it. Kill whoever they can kill. Steal away from God whatever is God's. And destroy whatever God created. Okay? And if that means getting you off the track of the gospel, that's what they'll do.
Yeah, as we were saying, Hebrews, right?
Yeah.
Scariest, like 3% off. Boat go.
Yeah. Yeah. Iniquity. Drift. Yeah, if they can just get you to drift off course until you're far away from God, oh yeah, they'll do that. Mama adds, distract, pervert, lie. Yep. Confuse. Yep, the tactics are all the same. They haven't changed one bit. Okay, AJ Higgins asks, what are some of your best recommendations for books on biblical archaeology at all levels in any niche? The one I would start with, there's a really good short book by Matthew Rochelle, called The Bible in Archaeology. It's a really good short book. It's published by Hendrickson's. I have it somewhere around here, but I don't know where. But it's a very good book. It's very short. It's full of little nuggets of wisdom on biblical archaeology. So that would be a good starting primer for biblical archaeology. Then you can go on to more advanced books. You can go into stuff like Kenneth Kitchen's On the Reliability of the Old Testament, and there's others too. But so that's where I would start you on biblical archaeology. Mr. White asks, why is the grave site at Avaris good evidence for the Exodus? Couldn't it just have been made because of population growth? All right, here's the issue with it. At the time, just before the grave, the cemetery site at Avaris and P. Ramses was two cities that coincided at the same time. Okay. So you had P. Ramses isolated on an island, and then you had the larger Avaris. Avaris disappears and is replaced by a cemetery. Now, why it's good evidence is because it happens all over the site. It is dates to a specific period of time too, which is mid-Dynasty 19. Okay? So, if it is caused by a population growth, it's also evidence of a large population death. Okay? To have that many people from a single period die at once, something happened there. Something happened. Okay, but we know that site, that cemetery site, begins in Dynasty 19. It probably was used into Dynasty 20 as well, but there's a lot of Dynasty 19 remains there. A lot of them. So hope that helps. Thank you very much for the question. Really appreciate it. But yeah, that's why it's good evidence. It's because it's a whole city just gone and replaced by a cemetery. So, Common Lurker asks, what do you think of Donald Redford's argument against the Ramesside origin for the toponym Ramses in the Bible? Michael Heiser once mentioned it as an argument that can go against the late date. I think it's a stupid argument. I think it's a dumb argument. And it's been pretty much debunked. He basically says that, as I best recall, that it's not Ramses because it lacks the P. So it's not P. Ramses in the Bible, it's Ramses, and he tries to make the claim that the dropping of the pair or P at the beginning of P. Ramses did not happen until the third intermediate period. Okay? So it's not the Ramosa Ramses connection. It's a later thing. Okay? He's trying to push Ramses in the Bible to the third intermediate period or the Iron Age. Okay? And he's doing it based upon that P dropping out. Now, here's the problem with it. We find Ramses without the P in Papyrus Anastasi 3. And that dates to the reign of Merneptah. That's as Ramesside as you get. So, Redford's wrong on this. And a lot of people pointed this out. So Mama goes, whoops, yeah. Yeah, that's a whoops. It's but you know, you get these people that make that, I mean, they use that argument too with Pithom Ethom too. Ethom is Pithom without the P. So a lot of them have said, oh, yes, that's got to be Third Intermediate Period Iron Age because it doesn't have the P in front of it. Well, you know what? If it doesn't have the P in front of it for Ramses, it doesn't necessarily have to have it in front of Ethom either. So yeah, yeah. So Redford was wrong on this. He was very wrong on this. And Michael Heiser mentioning it as an argument against a late date. When it comes to the Exodus, Heiser was a complete idiot. I don't know how to say this any more clear. I like Heiser. I like some of his ideas. I think he was a very creative scholar. But his stuff on the Exodus was just so bad. So bad in so many ways. I just can't take Heiser seriously whenever he talks about the Exodus. He didn't know what he talked about. So it's just one of those things. It's just, you know, it's just I facepalm every time I see Heiser do a lecture on the Exodus. Dark Bay Falls up here. If the P is dropped, that would mean Etham is the same as Atum. Yes. Yes, it does. It is that TM. It's that Tum. And the U is, it's in Egyptian, it's just TM. So it's Tum. It's P-Tum or Pertum. Etham is also E-Tum. Etem. So, yeah, it's the same. And it occurs in the same orders as you would expect Pithom to be. So it's definitely, I mean, there's really no serious doubt. Yeah, the theory has a lot of problems. So, well, I mean, I think probably the most embarrassing thing I saw Michael Heiser talk about was at the beginning of his Exodus. He did a 3-part Exodus lecture. And he talked about pictures of the slaves. And he showed the picture, you know, it's the Asiatics making mud bricks from Theban Tim 100. And he talked about it being from a tomb of a guy called Beni Hassan. But this couldn't be related to the Exodus because this guy's tomb, Beni Hassan's tomb, dates to 1800 BC, so it's too early. And I was just, my jaw was dropping, like, I couldn't believe it. It's just like, Heiser, didn't you check with anyone before saying this? Of course he didn't. Bible scholars never check with Egyptologists. I don't know why they're so proud that they feel so proud they don't do this, but it was so bad. So bad. I mean, first of all, that was the tomb of Rekhmere. Second of all, Beni Hassan is a place, not a person, even though it sounds like a person's name. Third was that tomb dates to mid 15th century, so it's in the ballpark of the Israelite captivity. So yeah, he was wrong on all counts. All counts. But those are the mistakes that Heiser makes, and he frequently makes them because he just doesn't know he didn't know the Egyptian material. But Annie Gone Wild asks, do you think Heiser's position was affected by early Exodus supporters? It was affected by David Rohl. Okay, that early Exodus supporter. Now, here's the history of Heiser. He was a participant in the chronology, what's it called? The chronology forum that David Rohl used to put on for early career academics. So before Pizer got his PhD, he participated in this chronology forum sponsored by David Rohl and got his first publication credits by David Rohl. So Heiser was beholden to David Rohl. And I've seen this before where early academics will, they'll get their first publication credit through some sort of benefactor and are very reticent after that to bite the hand that feed them. So, yeah. So that's why he was always beholden to them, and that's why he never sort of, I don't think, critically evaluated the Exodus positions very well, and it's just, yeah, it was not a good thing, not a good thing at all. And I think young academics really need to be careful who they take charity from, because there's always strings attached. All right, moving on here. Okay, next one here is from AJ Higgins for $5. Thank you very much for the super chat. What's the difference between biblical studies and theology in academia? That's a good question. Biblical studies is a general purpose field where all sorts of topics are covered. Theology is the study of doctrine and dogma. Okay? So a theology degree makes you qualified to study basically various forms of doctrine, dogma, systematic theologies, that sort of thing. Whereas biblical studies can be more diverse. It can cover stuff such as archaeology, critical theory, all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't even think is biblical studies. Gender studies within the Bible, that sort of thing. So it's biblical studies can be very, very broad. Yeah, biblical studies typically stays away from stuff like ethics, theology, that sort of thing. So, hope that helps. Thank you very much for that super chat. Really appreciate it. But that's sort of the dividing line. One studies doctrine, the other one studies everything else. So, hope that helps. Common Lurker asks, did Egypt ever gain New Kingdom levels of power in the Iron Age or First Millennium BC? Yes, it did. It did so briefly during the 25th Dynasty. In the 25th Dynasty, this is basically the Nubian Dynasty, they did move things. They were able to conquer all the way up into Syria. And that's probably, and it was very brief. It was very, very brief during the 25th Dynasty, because they soon ran head-to-head against the Assyrians, and the Assyrians basically drove the 25th Dynasty all the way back to Kush. It just did not last long, but they did have probably the longest reach at that point that they had since the New Kingdom. So, next one here is from I think it's Nino KR. Hey Doc, he says, in the book of Exodus, what would have happened had Ramses II allowed the Israelites to worship 3 days in the wilderness instead, and what was the ultimate outcome or purpose of this request? Okay. The ultimate purpose of that request was to worship in a way that they were out of reach. Here's the thing with being out 3 days. If you go 3 days, it becomes virtually impossible to track you down. So it's a trust exercise. So by asking Pharaoh to let them go 3 days in the wilderness, God's basically telling Moses, you gotta trust us to come back. Let's go. We may come back, we may not. You gotta trust us. So that's the issue there. So so yeah,
It's making it.
it's making it obvious.
And when you consider they didn't get a 2 days off each week,
Yeah.
they got a half day off.
Yeah, they got a half day off.
A lot of time. That's like asking for 6 rest periods.
Well, I mean, it's 3 days travel out.
I know,
So,
but still, they're asking for 6 rest periods. They're getting half a day off.
Yeah.
So that's 6 half days
yeah, it is 6 half days, yeah.
each way.
Each way.
So that's like asking for actually 12 rest.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Darkblade goes, was it dishonest for Moses to leave out the, by the way, we won't be returning to Egypt afterward part? Well, others had asked that too. The workers at Deir el-Medina decided to do a festival for 7 days. 3 days out, get drunk and sloshed and eat for a day, and then 3 days back in. It was the sort of request you made when you didn't want Pharaoh coming in and monitoring you as you did your festival. And it had been done before. Okay? It had been done with special permission. But there was that sort of reciprocal trust agreement that you would return. Now, in the case at Deir el-Medina, they just went up into the hillside. They're not going anywhere. Okay?
Well, they were recommended. The guy helping them said,
Well, no, that's a different incident. But okay, that's a different incident. But there was a time when the guys at Deir el-Medina wanted to celebrate the festival of Amenhotep I. They went up in the hills, they got drunk, they ate goats, whatever. That's what they did. They got absolutely hammered up there. And then they came back. Okay? But, their only way to go was the Western Desert, and no one wants to go out in the Sahara. So they would have come back anyway.
the dark blade asked him to.
It's a fair question, yeah. Yeah. It's possible that they could have, not returned. That was a possible thing. Which is why...
Was it just to leave out, by the way, we won't.
There's an implication there that was a possibility. Okay? He wasn't fooling anyone by leaving that out. Okay? No one would have just, they would have just, Tony G, beer, goats, what could go wrong? Exactly. What could go wrong?
Yeah, frat parties have been going on for centuries.
Frat parties for centuries, yeah. Yeah, so, all right, next one here. Next one here is from Farmhouse Theologian for 15 Australian. Thank you so much for that super chat. Tired and haven't slept. No, I haven't slept, and I am exhausted. Sounds like the perfect time to review a popular YouTuber's take on the Exodus. Blessings. I look forward to your new book. Well, we hope you enjoy it. Yeah, it is good to see her here. All right, next one here is also from Farmhouse Theologian for 15 Australian. Thank you again. She goes, I haven't got many questions, but I have had it on my heart to support your ministry lately. Thank you so much. We can definitely use your support, and we really appreciate it. I'm not well off, but I pray for you both regularly, and I share your channel with interested people. Excellent. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it, and we understand that this is a sacrificial giving, so we appreciate it so very much. Next one is a member comment from Mama. Everyone Falk smash the like button, and I pray Doc and Mrs. Producer get good deep sleep as soon as the live is over. We appreciate your diligence, but 48 hours without sleep, that's scary. Yeah, and everyone can tell I'm kind of bouncy because of it. All right, we got from Iron Knight. Says, hey David, this is a prayer request. Please pray for my mom boyfriend whose mom passed away today and is affecting him badly. Okay. We will definitely keep you in the person in our prayers. He adds, I know I can ask for prayer requests elsewhere, but we got the news today, so I didn't have time to think about it. Sorry, Doc. Do also include it on our Discord prayer, prayer channel, where a lot of our subscribers check for prayers. So do include it there too. But yeah, we'll keep you in our prayers. Yeah, and losing a mother in a family is not easy. All right, next move on here. I want to thank Jack Ray for gifting the channel 20 Egypt and the Bible memberships. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and being generous to the subscribers here. We really, really appreciate it, and thank you so very much. Darkblade here asks, is anyone of power in Egypt known to have died around the summer of 1264 BC, shortly before Moses' return? Shortly before. Well, here's the problem with this.
It does say all of it. So it's a fair question. Who died?
Oh, anyone in power. Okay. We don't have death dates in Egypt. So, Egypt was not great on its vital statistics. We don't have a lot of indication of who died before or who died after. We do know that there was a vizier that died around this time. The vizier of Upper Egypt, I think his name was Pacer, died around this time, either 1263 or 1264. We're not sure when, but he died around that time. So that's one we do know that died around that time, but exactly what year he died, we don't know, because again, they didn't keep those records. So it's really hard for us to keep track of vital statistics in Egypt because of that. Okay, we got a super chat here from Open Your Eyes for $10. Thank you for the super chat. How should Christians understand God's sovereignty? Is he orchestrating all natural processes and events, including senseless tragedies down to the smallest molecule? No, I don't think that's what's happening here. I think this is we talked a little bit earlier about the Westminster Confession, and I think the Westminster Confession is a very, very good statement on God's sovereignty. That there are two kinds of sovereignty: a primary and secondary sovereignty. Okay, in the case of, say, primary sovereignty, God dictates what is his absolute will. Okay, and that he does control absolutely. But there's also a secondary sovereignty too, which is sometimes called his permissive will. God permits things to happen, even though he's not directly responsible. He allows it to take place. So, God's not necessarily controlling every molecule under his sovereignty, but he is allowing molecules to be shifted and moved around and things done to them as part of his permissive will. So, yeah, Genesis 1 would be an example of primary sovereignty. Whereas, say, God allowing a demon to torment Saul would be secondary sovereignty. Calling for a demon to voluntarily go down and torment Saul. So, that would be an example of secondary sovereignty. So, I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. But that's what I think we should. I think, again, the best statement on this has been the Westminster Confession. They seem to have taken a lot of care to think about this and, primary and secondary causes here. So, God's sovereignty absolutely does extend to the primary causes, but the secondary causes, that's what he permits, but doesn't directly cause himself. So, hope that helps. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Andrew Graham asks a weird question here. Can demons make everything look good or bad? To the people they infest, yeah, sure. They can give experiences of euphoria. I don't know if that's what you're talking about here. But to those they possess, they can definitely make people think that bad things look good. You got some thoughts, Mrs. Producer?
Oh, I don't know if it's demons or just humans do pretty.
No, they do, don't they?
Because
yeah.
They like.
True, it isn't necessarily demonic influence. Yeah. So, anyway, that's probably the best we can answer this, not knowing exactly what you're asking here, but okay, let's move on. Ending Gun Wild asks, what position do you think Christianity will have in America within 10 years? Do you think it will decline or manage to increase in influence? I think it'll decline. It's been on a steady climb for the last 30 years. I think what we'll see is probably more seminaries fold, more churches close, a huge amount of the mainstream Protestant denominations will go under or sell their buildings for condominiums. That happens a lot. Around here in the Vancouver area, a lot of churches sell their land to developers Developers develop high-rises on the land and give them one floor of the building to be a church, so they can continue collecting on the trust funds. Yeah. Yeah. I think and I think it's been a Mama says just look at the closing seminaries. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can gauge this just by the closing seminaries. It's crazy. It is crazy how many of those seminaries are closing. I mean, in the Chicago area alone. Wow. I mean, you had St. Mary's close. You had Seabury close. You have Ted's close. Yeah, Wheaton. Yeah, Wheaton's facing issues. Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's not a good look. It's looking bad. So yeah,
Tony G. Thankfully our Lord said.
Yeah. Tony G says, thankfully our Lord said, feed my sheep, not count my sheep. Yeah. The problem is we're not feeding them either. That's why we're losing the count, is because we're not feeding. Mama says, Wheaton looks to deserve closing. It does, really. Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me either if Moody was that far behind either. That would not surprise me if Moody was also on that brink, but just hasn't disclosed it yet. Moody keeps a pretty tight control over how its finances are doing. Doesn't let that information out. Moody, I'm going to say this about Moody. Moody will tell you how many students, well, they won't even tell you this, but I found out. How many students deconvert from Christianity to atheism? It's about 50%. But try to find Moody's financial information. That's, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's national secrets kind of level. Indigo Wild was, I remember that Moody was a really strict seminary. It is a very strict seminary on things that shouldn't matter. I couldn't teach at Moody. I wouldn't be allowed to teach at Moody. Because I have long hair. And a beard.
Couldn't make up their mind.
Yeah, they couldn't make up their mind which was more offensive, my beard or my ponytail. If you're that focused on something cosmetic like that, you got deeper spiritual issues than trying to make everyone look like they walked out of a 1940s barbershop quartet. You know, it just. So yeah, yeah, I think they're probably doing a lot worse than they are pretending.
Legalists always create.
Mama says the legalists always create deconstructionists or cults. Yeah, they do. Yeah. All right. But yeah, that's sort of the state of Christianity right now. It's not looking good. Again, we forgot to feed the sheep. Somewhere along the way, we've dropped the ball. And we keep dropping the ball. And we keep dropping the ball. We keep forgetting to pick up the ball. So, yeah, it's not a good thing. Andrew Meisner asks, since you have been delving into topics such as literacy, would you ever make a video about the process of reading a book? Probably probably not. It's not really my area of interest. There are other channels that do that already, so I'm not really probably going to go there. But you never know. I mean, we have done one video on literacy before. Yeah, that was pretty shocking. But that's because of, say, it hit close to home. So, when we discovered that one of the people I had debated was functionally illiterate, a recent study sort of gave rise to why that might have been. So, but it's not something we really want to keep revisiting either.
I don't.
Yeah. Andy Gun Wild, what? Yeah. Yeah. One of the people that I debated was functionally illiterate. He couldn't read.
So he was very good at, like an actor.
Yeah, he was like an actor.
He could memorize the lines other people had fed him.
Yeah, he could memorize the lines other people fed him. He had some arguments, but he couldn't articulate them. He couldn't read. We won't mention the name, but I haven't done very many debates, so you could probably figure it out. And there's only one that's televised, so I'm not going to delete it. So you can figure it out on your own. All right, next one here is from Anthony Gloria. And the person asks, in ancient Egypt, what kind of afterlife would a person of the lower classes have? If they did everything right, and they had all their spells in order, they could look forward to never-ending labor, tilling and harvesting the fields of Osiris, and never eating of that grain. Never-ending farm labor. That's what the lower classes could expect out of the Egyptian afterlife. Fun. Yeah, Andy Gun Wild. Pretty much the same as their regular life. Yeah. Well, that's the Egyptian concept of ideal cyclic eternity. Everything is exactly the same as it is now. Forever and ever and ever. So, if you were a nobleman, you remained a nobleman forever and ever and ever. If you were a king, you remained a king forever and ever. If you were a farmer, well, get on that tiller and just mow that field. Yeah, there's no unionization in the fields of Osiris. And he got wild. How mid? Yeah. You asked. But that is the Egyptian afterlife for you. Never-ending labor. The same labor you're doing right now. So, yeah, fun. Great afterlife. All right, next one here. Luke Wayne asked the question, how are synchronisms tied to absolute dates? For example, you've mentioned the first year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign is in 605 BC as a sync to tying to an absolute date. How do we know it was that date? The first year, let me see here. The oldest absolute date we have. I can look this one up here. Just give me a moment. What's it now? Is it Dynasty 25? The death of Taharko in 664. Okay. That is the absolute, that's the oldest absolute date we have. And the death of Taharko is one of those things where sort of every other date is kind of, we have absolute dates that come after that. So we've got absolute dates for, say, the first year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. But that's because historians took really good care at that point to tie it to specific regnal years. So, and plus we got a lot of synchronisms for that period of time. Now, in the case of Nebuchadnezzar the First, or Nebuchadnezzar the Second, he's Nebuchadnezzar the Second. You got the Battle of Carchemish, and the Battle of Carchemish is tied to the reign of Necho II, and we also know his reign dates because, again, he comes after. So we also know that Nabopolassar is tied to the campaign of with the Medes. So there's a lot of synchronisms that are happening at that period of time that really anchor those dates. So for Nebuchadnezzar's first year in 605, it's pretty easy to sync that down to an absolute date. After 6 or before 664, it kind of gets dicey. Okay, and then you have to start doing other things like, again, synchronisms and error bars and that sort of thing to narrow down the dates. But 605, you're still in that range of absolute dating. So I don't think there's anyone who really questions that the first year of Nebuchadnezzar was in 605. We got too many chronicles of the time that basically confirm that date. All right. I hope that helps, Luke Wayne, and great question. Okay, next one here is from I hope Buckled Crane or Buckled Crane. I'm not sure which one it is. This is not the night for me to try to pronounce names. But the person asks, and God bless, have you ever talked to the Coptic Orthodox Church? Yes, I have. I'm guessing they would be very interested in your research. Not so much. I have talked to them. I have had dealings with the Coptic Orthodox Church. They're not really all that interested in ancient Egypt. They've kind of moved on. For the Coptic Orthodox Church, their attitude is kind of the past is the past, and while interesting, not really relevant to what they're doing. So, it's not something that they're that interested in. But I have dealt with them. So, hope that helps. Thank you for the question. Anthony Gloria asks, does Yahweh have a body according to the Bible? This is called analogical language. Okay? The Bible does not mention, it does describe God in terms of body parts. Like, it'll describe God having a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. And a mighty hand and an outstretched arm is a particular ancient Near Eastern ancient Near Eastern idiom for having might and power. The outstretched hand is what you hold the head of your opponents with, and the And the outstretched arm holds a mace to smash the head in. Okay. Yeah, the problem is there's also like I think it's Psalm 90, verse 4, that talks about God having wings and feathers like a chicken. So, you don't want to take those things that are meant to be metaphors as literal. It's analogies. It's meant to describe something that's of greater reality. It's not meant to describe something that's absolutely physical. So, Yahweh doesn't have a body. He's a spirit. And Christ said a spirit does not have flesh and bone as you see me have. So that sort of answers that question. But that doesn't prevent people from misinterpreting those chapters to say he does have a body. I know, for example, Mormons often misinterpret those chapters to say God has a physical body like you and I. And that's just not the case. So again, it's analogical language. It's meant to convey a spiritual reality in terms we understand. So I hope that helps. Thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. Francis Dodd asks, what do you think of the 20th century Orthodox theologian Sergius Bulgakov? Haven't read him, so I don't know. I have not read a lot of those. I haven't read a lot of recent Orthodox theologians. Buckle Crane asks, do you know the Coptic language, and are you familiar with Coptic legends about the Holy Family staying in Egypt? I do know the Coptic language, or at least I did know the Coptic language. I probably need to brush up on it because it's been a long time since I've used it. I've also am familiar with some of the Coptic languages about the Holy Family staying in Egypt, or more precisely, how the Coptic family toured Egypt in a minivan. Well, you start seeing the Coptic legends, and the Holy Family is moving from city to city in Egypt.
They had mopeds.
Yeah, mopeds. Yeah, they're moving. They're going from Pelusium to Heliopolis to Alexandria, and then they're scooting on down to Memphis, and then going all the way down to Elephantine, and then they're coming back, and they're doing the grand tour of Egypt. So I don't think that's what happened. Just saying. I've got some serious doubts as to that's what they were doing.
Hey, they didn't have good carpenters. Joseph shows up, and he gets all these requests. I need cat. I'm getting married. Yeah. Goes here, there.
Yeah, doing the grand tour of 7 cities in Egypt. It's something like 7 cities. So it's like, it's not a small tour. If I'd done that tour of Egypt with my tour group, it would have been quite exhausting. All right, next one here is from Chad Lennox for $9.99. Thank you very much for the super chat. Tony G. Most likely, Joseph could only afford a tuk-tuk. Oh, but a tuk-tuk is... Ooh, those are wild rides, man. Wild rides on a tuk-tuk. I've only ridden in a tuk-tuk once, and it will only be once I ever ride in a tuk-tuk. Okay, a tuk-tuk is a 3-wheeled vehicle. 3-wheeled motorized vehicle. It is covered, sort of. There's no closed doors. So you get into this open door on the side, and you sit in a back seat, and the guy driving the tuk-tuk is he's driving something that looks kind of like a motorcycle with two back wheels and a carriage. Okay. And you can see some pretty strange stuff around tuk-tuks when you're in Egypt. I saw a guy changing a tire on a tuk-tuk, one of the back tires, and this little girl is holding up the tuk-tuk with one arm. And it's like, whoa, that must be one heck of a strong little girl. What are they feeding her? Okay, so let's get back to Chad's super chat here. So Chad Lennox, 999, thank you for the super chat, asks, I've been reading Unseen Realm, and it appears Heiser put his Divine Council goggles on his Divine Council goggles, and he sees the Council where God is implying his multi-personal nature. What's your take on Genesis 1:26? Okay, let's pull up Genesis 1:26. Genesis 1:26. The Bible here, and it says, Then God said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. All right. And then verse 27, I will add to. And God created man in his own image. In the likeness of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Okay. So here's the issue I have with Heiser. Okay. He is basically saying in verse 26 that God is telling the Divine Council, let us make man in our image. Okay. If we were taking verse 26 out of context, that's not an unreasonable thing to say. But then you get to 27, and then 27 says, God created man. Well, then who's the us? God said, let us make man. But in 27, you have God making man in his own image. So then, who's the us? It can't be the Divine Council. It's got to be God. And the Divine Council is not in the image of God. At least we're never told they're in the image of God. Tony G, hint of the Trinity. That has been the traditional understanding of this passage. This is the Trinity. Okay. So I think that they've I think Heiser's got a hammer and he sees every problem as a nail. He's got a Divine Council hammer, and every problem, every passage is going to be viewed through that lens of the Divine Council. It's a problem a lot of scholars have. And, I've even find myself sometimes succumbing to that, and I'm basically I had to say to myself, hey, you know what, maybe I should look at this through another perspective before making that decision. So that's one of the problems when you focus on a certain area of research. You tend to see everything like that. And Heiser was no exception to that. He did that all the time with the Divine Council stuff. So even though his Divine Council has a point, and there's places it's definitely applicable, it's not applicable everywhere. And this is one of those places I don't think it's applicable. So, chat, I hope that helps. Thank you very much for that super chat. Really appreciate it. And I hope that brings insight to the passage. I want to thank Jack Ray for 20 gifting the channel another 20 Ancient Egypt and the Bible memberships. Thank you so much, Jack, for supporting the channel. We so very much appreciate it. Mama asks for $2. Thank you very much for the super chat. Did Ancient Egypt have anything like theatrical productions? The closest thing they had were the festivals, the processions. Okay, that's the closest thing they had to theatrical productions. And at the processions, what they would do is they would dress in masks. A lot of priests would dress in masks, and as the sacred bark is being carried out, some of the priests would act like the gods. In front of the bark, around the bark, they'd interact with the crowd. And that was probably the closest thing they had to theatrical productions. Apart from that, they really didn't have theaters. They didn't have they didn't have like amphitheaters like the Romans or the Greeks had.
They did have like dancers perform.
They did have dancers perform. They did have music. They did have theatrical displays, but they didn't have theater. So that's probably as close as they had. So anyway, that's a great question, and I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Jack Ray for $5. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says you're doing better with the lack of sleep than Livestream 84. Yeah, that was a disaster. That was just yeah. Definitely needed to sleep then. Okay. Common Lurker asks, how much do we know about Tutankhamun's reign or the things he did? Well, he didn't reign that long. He only reigned 10 years. We do have monuments by him. Like, for example, the Colonnade Hall at Luxor was built by him. We do have some documents from him. We got some stele by him. Like, we have the restoration stele by Tutankhamun. So we do know that he did some stuff. Like, we know, for example, that in his third regnal year, he moved the capital from Amarna back to Thebes. He did do some. His administrative city was in a place called the City of Gold, which was between the palace and Deir el-Medina. Yeah, there's a whole huge stretch of desert between Deir el-Medina on the eastern side that looks like desert, but there's actually a huge city underneath all that desert. It's crazy. It's crazy when you look at it, because it's just huge amounts of one of the biggest administrative cities in all of Egypt was there, and we're just scratching the surface of excavating it. But Tutankhamun that was instrumental in maintaining that city. The city was actually started by Akhenaten, but it continued on through the reign of Tutankhamun and into the reigns of at least Horemheb. Also in that third year, he restored the temples of Egypt to its old paganism. We do know there was an exchange of letters between him and the kings of Babylon and Assyria. So yeah, he did some stuff in his reign. We don't know, as I say, that much about him because his reign was relatively short. But yeah, we know some stuff. So hope that helps. Thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. CPM versus DOS for 2 ducks. Thank you for the super chat. Can't wait for the third book. 4 more weeks. Yeah. It's going to be cool. And again, he's talking about here Lord of Steel and Sky. So the inside cover, of course, which is, this is the, ooh, creepy. Okay. Golden One asks, if a person is possessed by a demon, what exactly is happening to them as the demon fuses with it, as them, as in, is the demon fusing with their soul? Okay, no, the demon is not fusing with their soul. Demons are not capable of actually fusing souls. They're hijacking. Okay? Basically, when a demon possesses something, remember we talked about how Satan is a squatter in the world? He's got squatters' rights. He moves into God's house, eats his food, trashes the living room. He's a squatter. Well, think of demons taking over, possessing human bodies, kind of like hijacking a car. Okay? It's more like hijacking a car, where the person's soul is basically forced into the back seat while the demons drive in the vehicle. So that's really what happens when somebody is possessed. Is the demons driving the car and the soul's in the back seat. The Count of Marcy asks, is it hijacking their mind? It's hijacking their control. They're hijacking their brain is what they're doing. So the person is still in control of their faculties in that they can think, they can reason, they can judge to some extent, when they're not being deluded. But what's happening is it's like being in a vehicle. When you're in a vehicle, well, and a hijacker takes over in your vehicle, forces you in the back seat, you're still thinking in the back seat. You're just not in control of the steering wheel anymore. It's kind of what's going on here with demonic possession. The guy who owns the vehicle is in the back seat now, and someone else is at the wheel steering. So it's not so much hijacking their mind, it's hijacking their brain. So it's more along that level. All right, next one here is from Mr. White, who asks, do you think Exodus 33:20 should be interpreted analogously? If so, how do we understand what it means? Let's see what Exodus 33 says here. Exodus 33:20. But he says, you cannot see my face, for no man can see me and live. Yeah, that's analogy. Yeah, that's an analogy. That's analogical language. Okay. Basically, what this is saying is nobody can see God full on. Basically with the absolute power of his glory, and live. It's just too much for the human mind to comprehend. So, yeah. I would say this is definitely analogical language here. So, it's best understood as analogical language anyway. So I hope that helps. Thank you for the question. All right, we're actually already down to the last question. Imputationist asks, I remember you being critical of Currid's interpretation of the plagues. Thoughts on his general OT scholarship and work on Old Testament in Egypt. Okay. When he sticks to the Old Testament, does a good job. As an Old Testament scholar, and that's where he's strong. He's a Syro-Palestinian specialist. That's where he's strong. Okay? So when he does stuff on the Old Testament and, say, the archaeology of Canaan and Levant, yeah, he's fine there. That's his wheelhouse. When he gets into Egypt, he starts going off the rails. And I think this is a problem for Old Testament guys in general. I mean, on my recent video on Ramses, I had a guy who claimed to have a doctorate in theology who came on my channel and couldn't get any facts about the Exodus right or Egypt. You know, the dude said that, okay, that I had skipped a king between Horemheb and Ramses I. He said Seti I should be between the two. Well, that's not the order of succession. Okay? Seti I is after Ramses I, not before. The guy didn't seem to know. The guy thought that Shishak was named the Exodus Pharaoh. Well, Shishak is in 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles, not the Exodus. Shishak happens at the time of Rehoboam, not the Exodus. So I get a lot of these guys, and I can't say this is just YouTube. I wish I could say this is just YouTube. But I go to ETS every year, and there's some Old Testament guy who does something on Egypt who has not talked to an Egyptologist first. And I think that's a real problem. Because it's not a good look. And I can name tons of Old Testament scholars who should have talked to an Egyptologist first, didn't do it, and then they get up on stage and they look like an idiot.
That's because they know our data's gone to.
Yeah. Well, it's gotten so bad that people recognize me now at ETS. They recognize us at ETS.
You, I could handle. Us was, I mean, I did come in with you.
Yes, you did.
But that was interesting.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yeah, we do get the "you must be Dr. Falk" thing every time now we go to ETS.
I go with you. It's like, oh, you're the fault.
Yeah. So words got around. Yeah.
Did you get guy between Jack Race and how should Christians understand sovereignty?
Yeah, we did the one on sovereignty. I think we covered all of the super chats. Yeah, there isn't a lot of questions tonight for some reason. So we're pretty much done with questions. So we got one more here from Andy Gun Wild. What 5 books would you recommend to a Christian in order to deepen their knowledge of the Bible? Bible not included. Well, Bible's a great start. I mean, you should do that. I would say get the Baker Backgrounds book on the Old Testament. I think they got a new one for the New Testament now, too. I haven't looked at that. What else would I recommend? Richard Hess's book on Israelite religion is very good too. We also covered that. Yeah, we just sort of buzzed through them tonight. I think it's because I'm tired. I'm kind of going through them giving them less time. I'm just kind of going through them at a faster pace. We also only had 12 super chats tonight anyway. So we really did not have very many. We have not had a foodie section tonight too. Oh, we got a one just came in here from Farmhouse Theologian. Thank you again so much. She gives us a $15 Australian super chat. Thank you so much. You've been very generous tonight. We really appreciate it. She says, it's depressing that scholars of Old Testament and Egypt won't connect to sort things out. Are there any initiatives from critical scholars to try to improve this together? Your novel was an exact replica. Okay. Actually, in some ways, critical scholars are making this worse. They're making this worse, not better. I kind of wish they did make this better. Anyone who make this better would be welcome, to be honest. I have found that critical scholars tend to pursue hedge protection at even greater paces than scholars of the Old Testament. Scholars of the Old Testament, some of them don't think to ask an Egyptologist. Some of them just presume it's easy to do Egypt stuff. Critical scholars will actively screen out people outside of their particular niche. They're very territorial and very much into hedge protection. And some of that is because critical scholarship does not tend to be a data-driven field. So fields that are not data-driven tend to be more susceptible to counterfactuals, and counterfactuals tend to come out of left field for those sorts of things. So critical scholars have not helped. In fact, they've made it worse. Now, getting back to scholars of the Old Testament and Egypt connecting, they used to be connected. They used to be really, really tied together. You go back to the 1920s, it was very, I mean, most people who practice Egyptology did also do some Old Testament studies. So, but what happened over time was Egyptology sort of separated itself from biblical archaeology. It sort of said, okay, we're going to have our own field with our own standards and our own rigor. And, you know, scholars of the Old Testament said, yeah, sounds great. We'll do the same thing. So both fields ended up sort of going their separate ways. And the result has been that now both sides aren't talking. Both fields aren't talking to each other. The Old Testament doesn't talk to the Egyptologists because it hurts their pride. They'd have to admit that they don't know everything about the Old Testament. Egyptology doesn't talk to the Old Testament because it isn't interesting. So there's it's an unfortunate thing because the two sides do need to start talking to each other again. The Old Testament definitely, because they are moving more into Egypt, and Egyptology because I think it does help give some insight into what happened in Egypt too. So, especially in those times when there is overlap in populations. like you find in the New Kingdom in the Second Intermediate Period. So I think it's just unfortunate that they don't do that anymore. But I'm trying to change this myself, but I'm just finding it. There's a lot of resistance to it.
Well, Old Testament scholars are flat out academic Egyptologists are all atheists.
Rich Adams goes, did Carmen Imes reach out to you in writing her Exodus commentary? No, she didn't. But she did reach out to me for her last SBL paper. Now, I think her commentary was already finished at the time she reached out to me. So that probably already went out to press prior to her reaching out to me. Now she contacts me. Okay, if she's got a question, she'll contact me. Thank God for that. There's one who will finally reach out. Like she did a series on her YouTube page, on her YouTube just recently on the Ark of the Covenant and the Tabernacle, and she did reach out to me for some questions, and I thank God she did. She even recommended my book, like, on the Ark of the Covenant 3 times. So
yeah, and it resulted in
it's resulted in some pretty impressive sales too as a result. So so she didn't reach out for me for her commentary, but she has reached out to me for other things. So it's a start, and I'm happy. It's a start. I'm fully on board with scholars that want to start, interfacing with an Egyptologist so that they can get the real goods on Egypt. Okay. We got a few more super chats coming in here. Rich Adam, what was the most out of bounds biblical teaching you've heard? I have heard biblical teachers integrate all sorts of crazy things into their teaching that they think is, say, Egyptian, and it isn't, or at least it's not very good Egyptology stuff. A lot of them will integrate Roll's new chronology. That's just wacko jacko. I mean, that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It has no possibility of being correct, but you will find biblical scholars incorporating Roll's new chronology into their teaching and thinking it's scholarly when it's in no way scholarly. You'll have people trying to how does this hallucinate data, putting it into their biblical thinking or their articles and their book chapters. Where is this?
Tony,
Tony G. And he took the Ark to Tanis and it was stored in the Well of Souls. Yikes. Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, I've seen people recite the myth, like, for example, that the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia. It's a myth. There's nothing to it. It's been completely debunked, but there's still people who hold to it. Still people out there who misdate Amenhotep II. They're still using the early daters dating, and there's no dating. I mean, here's the crazy thing about that. There's no standardized dating that dates Amenhotep II from 1450 to 1425. The it's called now. The low chronology doesn't do that. The high chronology doesn't do that. The high chronology puts the accession of Amenhotep II at 1437. Now, why do they put it at 1450? Because it works really well with the early date of the Exodus. That's why. There's no chronology on this planet that's standardized, that can be justified with evidence, that places Amenhotep II at 1450 BC. But you'll still find Bible scholars using those dates. You won't find it in any museum. You won't find it in any standard Egyptology textbook. But Bible scholars will still use that dating, even though it is just crazy town. It's crazy town. So, I still hear people talk about the Nephilim in crazy terms. You know, they're still thinking that angels are breeding with women.
And stating that there are all these 8.
Yeah, and stating there's all these 8-foot tall or 10-foot tall skeletons in the ground somewhere. It's been so debunked. So debunked. Giant AI monster man. Oh, pretty much. It is that level of stupid. I mean, we are off the rails at this point. Yeah, I mean,
yes. I like that.
CPM versus DOS. It's in an Arab dude's attic. That's my position. Yeah, Andrew Graham. Bigfoot levels of stupid. Yeah. And a lot of Bible scholars will just accept this stuff like it's absolute fact. And you try to tell them, and they just get angry.
Rivers in Genesis actually 4 streams of wealth God gave to humanity.
Oh boy.
Each river is connected either to resources, influence. That is ice and cheese in its purest.
Yeah, Rich Adams says, I had a charismatic pastor teach the rivers in Genesis 2 were actually 4 streams of wealth that God gave humanity. Each river is connected to either finances, resources, influence, and desires. Yeah, that's so eisegesis. I mean, that's just crazy. That is just crazy. Farmhouse Theologian for 20 bucks Australian. Thank you for that super chat. Very generous of you. Asks, are you the only serious Christian Egyptologist using good data? Are there any others you can recommend any up and coming learning like you did from Kitchen and Hoffmeyer? Okay, I was one of 2 of Hoffmeyer students that ended up being an Egyptologist. The other one's Mark Jansen. He's very good too. But he's not as public as I am. I'm probably the most public Egyptologist, well, on YouTube. Okay? Most do not get involved with YouTube for obvious reasons. YouTube's a cesspool. And most Egyptologists have the good sense to stay away. But yeah, I would recommend Mark Jansen. He's a good one. But there's a few of us. I'd say about, Christian Egyptologists, you're talking about, I think there's about 12 of us in the world. Okay, there's not many. 6 of us had gathered at Azor last year, and one of us commented, half the world's Christian Egyptologists are in one place right now. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on here. But yeah, there's Jensen doesn't produce as much, doesn't write as much as I do. But but he does a lot. He does a lot more teaching than I do too. So, he teaches at an academic institution. He does write articles. I tend to write less articles. I tend to write more books. So my name tends to get out there a little more than his does. But he's done some good work. He was the general editor of the 5 Views series on the Exodus. Or 5 Views book. So. All right, let's go back here. We've got some super chats to catch up on. All right. CPM versus DOS, foodie section. What is your favorite bread? My brother needs to know. Ooh. What is my favorite bread? That is a hard question. I can think of various things I do like, though, as far as bread goes. Love focaccia. Focaccia's excellent. And I love it in various ways. I love olives on my focaccia. I even like jalapeno peppers on mine. Mrs. Producer doesn't. That's fine. But focaccia is very good. I like potato bread. Potato breads are very good. Not a big sourdough fan. I know there are a lot of people do love sourdough. I'm not a big fan of sourdough. Really crusty bread with soup. Yeah, with soup, okay, that's different. Yeah, I'll definitely do sourdough with a nice soup. Clam chowders. Clam chowders and sourdough is a very nice combination. Now, interestingly enough, we have a Mrs. Producer and I have a very, very different taste in clam chowder. Mrs. Producer prefers New England style clam chowder. I prefer Manhattan style. Obviously, we always eat New England. But yeah, I love I mean, both of those clam chowders they'll go very, very good with sourdough. Very good. Tony G, the OG NBA, Nephilim Basketball Association. Hey, they're tall enough, right? Pelican Pictures, you serious? 12 Christian Egyptologists in the world? Well, yeah. Well, think about this for a moment. How many Egyptologists are there? There's only about 250. Okay? There's only about two. I mean, getting an Egyptology degree is very rare these days. You know, getting your PhD in Egyptology, there's very few schools that teach it. There are very few PhDs awarded because it's a very difficult discipline. I mean, it's not like biblical studies where they're handing them out like candy. You know, I mean, I think in biblical studies, something like 10,000 PhDs a year are being handed out. So, you know, when you've got a situation where you've got 10,000, I mean, think of it this way. There are 1,000 schools, over 1,000 schools that do biblical studies worldwide. Over 1,000. That's a lot of schools doing that stuff. How many schools do Egyptology? About 10. Okay? It's 2 orders of magnitude smaller. 2 orders of magnitude smaller. Okay? So you got 10 schools worldwide. Each of those schools has 2 profs. One of those profs will take on a PhD student in a given year. So you got 2 profs. One is actively teaching. a PhD student at any one time. So you're producing maybe 5 graduates a year, 10 graduates most globally per year. Okay?
Chow, you just math it says so 1/8 of all Egyptologists are Christian.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Chow Yi, about 1/8 of all Egyptologists are Christian. Yeah, about that. But it's also, again, it's a very, very small number of people. There are a very small number of people doing it to begin with. In the year that I graduated from Liverpool, and Liverpool has the largest Egyptology faculty outside of Cairo. Okay? They've got 7 full-time staff. I was the only PhD to graduate in my year. The only one. So, even with a large PhD, a large graduate school in Egyptology, and 7 is a huge graduate school for Egyptology, they still produce roughly the same amount of graduates. So yeah, I was it. So, we're back here. Yeah, so there's very few of us, and as a result, if 12 are Christian out of 250, yeah, 1/8, that sounds about right. So, okay. Next one here is by Rich Adams, who asks, food question. What is the dish Canada is best known for that is actually good? Hawaiian pizza!
Yeah.
Canada invented Hawaiian pizza. It is true. We were responsible. Poutine, it's very good. Montreal smoked meat, very good. Those are distinctly Canadian dishes. Poutine with moose. Oh, I don't know about the moose. I mean, if you've ever had moose, it's very gamey. Very gamey. CPM versus DOS. I love pineapple on my pizza, and I will fight and die on this hill. God bless Canada.
Oh, yeah. Pancakes and maple syrup.
Pancakes and maple syrup. Yep, maple syrup is very good stuff. Although you get the people in Vermont claiming maple syrup. Moose is okay, yeah, but it is very gamey. It is very gamey. Jack Ray goes, doesn't Tim Hortons serve maple syrup coffee? Not anymore, doesn't. Not since Wendy's took it over and the food service that bought them out took it over. Yeah, a lot of Canadian stuff went to the wind as soon as it got taken over. All right, next one here is from Tony G. Did you catch Kings and Generals YouTube channel about their claim that Yahweh originated from the Canaanite god El? That's the Northern Kingdom hypothesis. I don't buy it. It's based upon certain suppositions that I don't think carry through. I think the Midianite hypothesis is a much stronger view. So, but I wouldn't surprise me that they would take that view. A lot of critical scholars will take the Northern hypothesis view. Rich Adam asks, what food do you miss most from the U.S.? Ooh. You want me to repeat that? No? Okay. I won't repeat it then.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Producer misses the Western Bacon Cheeseburger from Carl's Jr. with crisp cut fries and ranch dressing. I don't blame her. It's good stuff. That is a good burger.
They had one.
Yeah, the only Carl's Jr. they had in Vancouver here closed, so they're gonna miss that. I miss what I miss from the U.S. is Mexican food. Mexican food is very good. The Mexican food in especially Southern California, very good. I actually prefer it over Tex-Mex. I'm not that thrilled with Tex-Mex. I do like have you ever had a Culver's Butterburger? No, I haven't. I have not had their I've had their ice cream.
Their ice cream.
Yeah, their ice cream's fabulous. I have never had their Butterburger. Del Taco, man, that's kind of mid for me. That was kind of mid. Whataburger could be okay. Yeah, I didn't have I liked Whataburger. It was okay. I also did not mind Chick-fil-A. It was pretty good. But I do like the Mexican food. Mexican food, oh my gosh. The Mexican food in the States is very hard to beat. Very, very hard to beat.
Not a big fan.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of In-N-Out. Do not. I think In-N-Out is one of the most overrated burger chains around. The Deuce a Dude, filet steak with béarnaise sauce. Actually, that is really good. I've had that. I have had that. That is very good. Yeah, filet steak rare with béarnaise is really good.
Who has the best? Vancouver has genuine.
Okay. Tony G asks, who has the best Chinese food, U.S. or Vancouver? Toronto. Toronto has phenomenal Chinese food. Absolutely phenomenal Chinese food. The Chinese food in Vancouver is good. But the one Toronto has the best Chinese food I have ever had. And it didn't matter what kind of Chinese food. Whether it was the dim sum, whether it was the baked goods, whether it was, say, the Cantonese style. Toronto had just such diversity and quality of Chinese food. I mean, oh my gosh. There was even a Chinese, what's it called now? Grocery store we used to go to. And they had a little diner section on there.
Oh, yeah.
We just sat and ate there. And then went shopping. Could barely walk. It was so good. So good.
But U.S. Chinese food is so sugar loaded.
Yeah.
And what you get here is real Chinese.
Yeah, the U.S. Chinese food does tend to be very, very sugar loaded. So I'm not a huge fan of U.S. Chinese food. It's too much. It has too much sugar in it, really. Sometimes you want that though, and sometimes that can be a guilty pleasure, and I'm fine with that. But it's nice to have the other two. Sweet and sour warthog. Ooh. Okay, there's another super chat here from Farmhouse Theologian for $5. Thank you so much. She asks, did they go separate ways because of fanatical questions, or was it before that? It was before that. It was before that. Already there had been cracks in, say, some of the early, as she's talking about here, just to catch you up, on the division between Old Testament studies and Egyptology. And she asks, did they go their separate ways because of fanatical Christians? Not so much, but there was the perception that, bringing the Bible into every archaeological discussion added bias. So it was more of a way to take the bias out of, say, a field that really didn't require it. You don't really need the Bible to interpret Egyptology. Okay? So I think in the case of Egyptology, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. You don't want every Egyptological discovery to have some guy cracking open Genesis and reading you the Table of Nations. Okay? Because that's not going to get you good results. But on the other hand, too, the siloization of Old Testament from Egyptology was not a good thing either. So, Andy Gone Well goes, but you do need Egyptology to interpret the Bible. It helps. I'm not going to lie, it helps. But then again, too, this is what's happened is Egyptology has developed an incredible rigor. It's developed a really incredible rigor. And part of the reason why it's developed a rigor is because it's a primary source discipline. It doesn't produce a lot of graduates, so the graduates that are produced have to be high quality. If you're producing 10,000 graduates a year, there's going to be a quality issue there. So Egyptology does have I told my history of ancient Egypt class this, when I worked at UBC. It was like, this is not an easy class. This is the hard class for history. You pass this class, you can do almost anything. Of course, they didn't listen because they thought the only thing to learn about Egypt was pyramids and aliens. But they actually believed it. Yep.
They actually put that as answers on the final.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just, oh my gosh, crazy. So, yeah, I don't think that happened because of fanatical Christians. But it was more of a rigor decision than anything else, really. So,
I'll say it's a bad.
Yeah, it is a bad combination of various things. So, okay, next one here. Imputation goes, if a follow-up is permitted, I mostly thought Currid on Egypt is good because Kitchen wrote the foreword to his book on it. I was going to buy it today. Should I or avoid it? I don't know what Kitchen wrote on the foreword to that book, but I have no idea of asking him anymore. I do know he did not care for Currid's theory on, say, the gods of Egypt. And the more I look at his book, I don't care for it. Again, it's not a rigorous view on Egypt. So that's why I don't recommend Currid's work. I should Currid's work on Egypt. Currid's work on the Old Testament, fine. That's fine. His stuff on Syro-Palestinian archaeology, that's fine. Stuff on Egypt, not so good. Yeah, Danny Dement here kind of nails it. Current is generally good, I think, with a few holes. Not the best source, though. Yeah, that's pretty much covers it. Farmhouse Theologian asks for $5 Australian. Is there a school or program of Egyptology in Australia you might recommend? I hear Macquarie has one, but I'm not really that into. I don't know the programs in Australia all that well. I know there are a few of them. I think there's 2 or 3 Egyptology programs in Australia, but um, the only one I'm aware of off the top of my head is at Macquarie. That's about the only one I know of. But I think that was the school Auchengay was at, but I'm not sure. I don't keep up on it, so can't really recommend one for certain. But I don't know of very many of them. So again, Australian schools I don't really keep up on. So I'm familiar with the ones in North America. I'm familiar with the ones in England. Those are really the ones I know well. Okay. Can't let that pass me by. 1017. Golowin asks, your best chili recipe. Well, my best chili recipe is my Green Goblin chili. That one won awards. That one's special. It is a chili verde. Chili verde that has Anaheims, poblanos, jalapenos, tomatillos, green what now? Yeah, green chili. Chili verde. Surely you must know about chili verde. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. CPM versus DOS. Chili verde is fantastic. Oh, it's so good. In a burrito, it's phenomenal. With chips and sour cream. Oh wow. It is so yummy. So yummy. Danny Dement, we need to get the food channel on Discord more active. Oh yeah, it's chili verde is delicious. It's absolutely delicious. And you slow cook it so it's just falls apart. Just so beautiful. Such a beautiful thing. Going? Oh, pork jerky. Yeah, we could do pork jerky with the air fryer. Yeah. Yep. Harry Stark asks, why do people never really use public domain characters? Uh, because they generally are attached to old works. Can't think of any reason other than that. Anno Graham asks, who puts pineapple on pizza? I do. I put pineapple on pizza. Oh, ham and pineapple pizza is a good thing. Oh, it's so good for breakfast too, yeah. Let's see what else here we got. The Council of Marcy, or the Count of Marcy, sorry, asked, do you think any Islamic beliefs today came out of ancient Egypt mythology? There's a few. There are a few Islamic beliefs that came out of it. The festival of Al-Hagag. The Al-Hagag festival. Al-Hagag is the saint. Okay? Al-Hagag is a festival that begins at the mosque at Luxor Temple. And they basically do this little parade of boats, of wooden boats, model boats, out of the mosque at Luxor Temple, parade it around, and come back to that mosque at Luxor Temple. Looks a heck of a lot like the Egyptian Opet Festival. An awful lot like the Opet Festival. No relationship at all. No. Little correlation does not equal causation. No, not at all. You'll also see Islamic men cleaning themselves using incense. Thurification. You see this sometimes, like, for example, when they use the bathroom and there's no water or soap. They will take incense, an incense burner, and burn some incense and basically pass their hands and legs through that. That's an Egyptian thing too. So yeah, there are some ancient Egyptian customs that did make their way into Islam. So, moving on. Chow Yi asks, what about Egyptology and Syro-Palestinian archaeology? What about them? I don't think that's a question. That's not a question. That's a choice. I don't know. Tony G asks, are we creating new gods of the sky, AI cloud data? I don't think so. And cloud data is not really in the sky. It's in data centers. AI also is in data centers. I doubt, though. I mean, there are people who are treating AI like persons or deities, but I don't think most people are, honestly. Harry Stark asks, does David use GitHub? No, he doesn't. He doesn't use GitHub because he does not like his repositories out where he can't control them. I like controlling my code wherever it is. So yeah, data meant nerds are also in data centers. Yeah. Chowry follows up here. I meant the relationship between Egyptology and Syro-Palestinian archaeology. Yeah, it went through the same process. It went the same. Syro-Palestinian archaeology went through the same process of trying to detach the Bible from and biblical archaeology from Syro-Palestinian archaeology. So they went through the same process. I think it was less successful, though. It's less successful because the fact is Syro-Palestinian archaeology is still trying to look for biblical sites. How much can you detach yourself from the Bible and still look for biblical sites? It's easy for Egyptology to do that because there's very few sites in Egypt that are biblical sites. Syro-Palestinian archaeology, there's a lot of biblical sites in Syro-Palestine. So, yeah, they tried to do it. I think what it left was a schizophrenic, discipline. Syro-Palestinian archaeology really cannot divorce itself from biblical archaeology, and when it does so, it starts leading to this sort of double-minded thinking of, well, we can't trust anything in the Bible. Oh, look, we found a biblical city. Well, whoops.
Gotta cover it back up.
Yeah, we got it covered. Yeah, got it covered back up. We found a biblical city. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dodgy. How that schizophrenic sort of bifurcation works, but hey, that's what they do. All right, next one here. Pelican Picture goes, Bible is public domain, yo. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
And that's something you have to.
You got to be very careful with Bible licensing. I'll tell you one that everyone thinks is public domain worldwide and isn't. The King James Bible. It is not public domain worldwide. It is in England. It is not out of copyright. It is owned by the University of Cambridge. If you use the King James Bible in a commentary and want to publish that in England, you have to get rights from the University of Cambridge. England has some strange laws when it comes to copyright where it carves out certain exceptions for certain works. And those works will never go out of copyright. King James Bible's one of them.
That's defeating the whole purpose.
Peter Pan's another one. Yep. It is owned. The copyright for Peter Pan is owned by a charity in perpetuity. Children's Hospital in perpetuity. So. Yeah. But yeah, in the case of the King James Bible, it is owned in England by the University of Cambridge.
So, what about all these, like the theatrical remakes? Are they all having to pay royalties?
Depends which. Were you talking about? Peter Pan? Oh yeah, the theatrical productions of Peter Pan, if they're done in England, they have to pay the royalties. Yeah, absolutely.
Was Robin Williams' version on?
I have no idea. What that was. Yeah, I don't know how that worked. But yeah, it's Peter Pan is definitely owned. Yeah, and it'll never go out of copyright. The King James Bible will never go out of copyright in England. It just.
Maybe that's why most productions of Peter Pan, you hear of were open in New York.
Yeah, that's why a lot of them were done in New York. CAPM versus DOS. So my King James Bible Peter Pan crossover that would have only been published in England is a no-go? Yeah, probably not.
Hey, I want to read it.
Tony G. Any heirs of the Essenes holding license to the Dead Sea Scrolls? Harry Stark goes, any thoughts on the public domain Bible translations? Gotta be careful. Dude, you gotta be careful with Bible translations. Some of them are not as public domain as you think they are. Here's one of the traps on Bible translations. And there's some say public, they don't say public domain, but free for personal use. That's a big trap. Because if you use it in a book, it's no longer personal use. Even if you just give the book away, it's once you put it in a book, even if you give the book away, it's for commercial use at that point. So a lot of so-called free use Bibles are not public domain. So you gotta be really, really careful. So Harry Stark goes, has anyone ever gotten sued for using copyrighted Bible translation in a video? Not to my knowledge, but usually they have gotten cease and desist notices for commentaries that had
it. Usually you're allowed so much.
Depends on the license, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a limited.
Yeah, there's a limited free word.
You're using usually the entire book of the Bible.
Yeah.
So that far exceeds my paragraph.
Yeah, like there's some translations that allow you something like 500 verses, but not more than 50% of an entire book. So, publishers do play games with licensing just to mess with your head. So, yeah, you gotta be really careful with Bible licensing, because there are so many gotchas. A lot of things you think is free isn't. Harry Stark asks, is the site for Jacob's Well legit? No idea. I don't think anyone's excavated it. I don't think anyone will excavate it. And you'd have to do an excavation of the area to see if it dates to that particular time, and I don't think anyone's going to do that. PA888 for $20. Thank you very much for the generous super chat. He says, I consider pineapple pizza another Canadian war crime. Hey, it's only a war crime the first time. Then it becomes part of the Geneva Suggestions. Canada's great about those Geneva Suggestions. We have a long history of the Geneva Suggestions. Danny Dement says some translations are explicitly copyrighted. They're all explicitly copyrighted, unless they're specifically public domain. Harry Stark goes, I thought the KJV was public domain. Everywhere in the world except England. Not public domain there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of countries that just ignore international.
Oh, yeah. Chow Yi, so how does quoting the KJV work in England? You're allowed to quote a certain amount without a license, but if you exceed that, and it's not very much for the KJV in England. I think it's something like 50 verses or something like that. It's pretty small. It's very small.
It basically allows it sermons.
Yeah, it allows it for sermons to be written, but it really doesn't allow it for commentaries. The Count of Marcy says the International Standard Version ISV seems to be only digital, but there are hard copies of the New Testament. I've tried to get one, but never had any luck. And even if it is only digital, it might still be copyright. You know, just because it's digital doesn't mean it's free either. So you got to be really careful with that. That's another one of those gotchas. If it's digital, it does not mean it's free. It can be totally digital, totally published online, and still be copyrighted. So you got to be incredibly careful about that. Harry Stark says, what are good public domain translations in English for the Bible? I think the American Standard Version is now out of copyright. It's kind of old, but that's the base that they used for the NASB. I think that is available out of copyright. I think the Revised Standard Version, the original, is out of copyright. It was okay, not great. But always check the license. Always check the license. Always check the copyright date. Okay? Just do your due diligence. Because I'm not a copyright lawyer. I can't tell you what ones are absolutely out of copyright and where they're out of copyright. And I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, you can get sued. Don't want that to happen. So do your due diligence before using any version. And the time to do it is before you send it to the publisher.
Well, before you start writing.
Before you start writing, yeah.
If you're doing a commentary, that's the first thing you should do.
Mm-hmm.
Get a usable translation. It's going to be. And it doesn't mean you can't write a better translation.
Harry Stark goes, why would even people use the KJV when there's the new KJV? Copyright. There's royalties on the new KJV. Let me see if I can find what the license statement is for the new KJV. Yeah, it's protected by HarperCollins. Good luck. Here is the license for the NKJV. Okay, you can quote 500 verses or less in total. You cannot quote any more than 25% of the total text of your book. And it does not count for more than 50% of an entire book in the Bible. It is not being quoted in a commentary or other biblical reference. So if you're writing a commentary, it's off the table. Okay? The scripture is probably cited with a specific copy. So it's rigorously defended by HarperCollins. Okay? That's why people don't use it. Now, from what I've been told, and I don't know if this is still true, the licenses for the NKJV are less than the KJV. Okay? In England, anyway. The NKJV is a very inexpensive Bible to license, which is why you find it in all sorts of commentaries. Okay, the NKJV is one of the cheapest modern translations to license. That's why people use it. It's because it's inexpensive to license. It's not free, though. It's not free. And it's owned by HarperCollins. HarperCollins will protect its copyright. Well, what's the license on the Tony G says just use the Good News Bible. What's the license on the Good News Bible? It's pretty much the same. Yep. Its copyright. Good News Translation is copyrighted by the American Bible Society. Limit of 500 verses. No more. Does not exceed more than 25% of your work. Cannot do more than 500% of a, or sorry, more than 50% of a single complete book. And only, all that is only if the work is non-commercial. So you can't use it in commentaries or textbooks or devotionals or anything like that. So if you use it in a published book, you are hosed. So that's why you don't use the Good News Bible. So, yeah, you just have to. All I can say is, if you ever do a book on the Bible, you really do have to look up the copyright. Now, yeah, Danny Dement says Crossway has a form to request permission to cite more than the 500 sec, but no price is listed, and they never do list the price. Price is done at the negotiation level, basically at the publishing level for the ESV. So none of them will tell you the prices. None of them will tell you the prices, but there will be a price. Now, the best way to do this, if you're smart, this is how you do this. Best way to do it. You pick a publisher that already has a Bible in their copyright inventory and use their version. I've had to do that before, where I was like Lexham Press. I was doing something for Lexham Press once, and I had to use the TNIV, today's NIV, because they had the copyright. So if you use the copy, the Bible version that the publisher already owns, you can oftentimes get that copyright reduced, or those license fees reduced or waived entirely. But that's something between you and the publisher. But you got to make sure you've done that footwork first. Tony G. I'll translate it back from the revised Klingon.
Oh.
Oh yeah, there's people who are translating the Bible into the Klingon. There are people who are doing it. I don't know how far they've gotten with it, but I know people who are doing it. Heck, I thought about doing an Egyptian version of the Old Testament.
Would at least get words theologically.
Yeah, it would get certain words theologically correct, yeah, but still loved when they translated Peter Rabbit into Egyptian. That was cool. Yeah, that was done by the British Museum. They translated Peter Rabbit into Middle Egyptian. That was totally cool. So, okay, that is the last question we have for the night here, and I don't see any more discussions. It's 11 p.m. I think we're going to call it an early night. What do you say? Is the community good with us calling it an early night, or do you want to drag this out a little longer? Not 16 hours longer. Okay? Not 16 hours.
George Blair I would like.
Lord's Prayer in Klingon is awesome. Okay. Jack Ray says, thank you for the stream. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight and generously supporting the stream. I think everyone is letting us go here. They're taking mercy on us. How can this happen? This is... Oh, we're probably incoherent. That's why. Oh, boy. CBM versus DOS for $2. Thank you for the super chat. He says good night. All right, so we'll call it a night here then. I think this is the first time we've gone for only 3 hours since we started doing these live streams. Okay, so anyway, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're glad you could make it. Despite my condition of being completely punch-drunk exhausted, we so appreciate you guys for bringing your questions and joining us. I'm having trouble getting through this. I want to thank you guys who support us through your super chats, through the PayPal contributions, through Patreon, and through YouTube memberships. You guys help us to make the difference here. We also want to thank those who view our videos, hit that like and subscribe button, and share the URL with other social media. And finally, we want to thank everybody who posts reviews of our books on Amazon. Really, really important for us. If you haven't done so already, please do so. We really need that. And we repeat it over and over again because we have such a dire need for those book reviews. So with that said, thank you very much for...
Don't worry, we'll make up for it.
Taduza, dude, don't worry, we'll make up for it this week or next week. Ooh, it sounds like a threat or a promise. I don't know. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're glad you could be with us, and we'll see you next time on Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Good night, everyone.